Hey, this week we talk about sports television programming, Jesus' publishing house, and leadership. It's Holy Ramblings. Welcome to Holy Ramblings,
a podcast about the important
and often humorous
reality of living a Jesus-focused supernatural life.
Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back.
So glad to have you here back at Holy Ramblings. It's not been a while, but it feels like it. I don't know. I missed you guys. I missed you, Jaunty. I'm Thomas, by the way. That's Jaunty.
Hi. I don't know. You can, if you do it the other way, it looks like I'm just throwing my head.
Well, actually, that's we're bopping our heads, and that's only useful for the 10% of you that watch it on YouTube.
So watch YouTube.
Hey, yeah, check it out. Geek Theologian is the YouTube channel. You can watch it there. We make funny faces while doing this podcast.
I mean, we just have funny faces, and we do a podcast.
Hey, you work with what the Lord gives you.
I said
right?
podcast. I meant podcast. Sorry. I just when
podcast.
Podcast.
We're talking to God, and we're praising the Lord, and we're on a podcast. I can't even. I was like podcast.
Kid. Yeah.
Hey, see any good movies lately? Any good television shows that you can speak of online?
You know what?
I'm guessing you watch something about racing or sport. That's my guess.
I mean, you are right. So I know Drive to Survive.
Words I love. Let's just listen to those words. This is now officially recorded on the podcast.
No, because you're actually right, and that's really annoying me. Because you know me so well, Tom. Yeah, no, I didn't watch Drive to Survive because it annoys me. Because I'm too much of a F1 fan now to like it. But I did watch the golf one because I'm not a big enough golf fan to enjoy it. I feel like if you like the sport, you don't really want to watch the show because they're just going over it with a weird storyline, which wasn't maybe true. But if you don't watch the sport, it's fantastic.
But there's always, sport's kind of a wonderful thing because there's always some sort of story that can be inferred, right? It's not, it probably isn't there. But there's normally kind of these epic struggles between these titans in a sport world. And one sport world titan was going to achieve, but now looks like it has faced hardship. And another sport world titan is coming up to take its place. But can the first sport world titan make sure that it can conquer once again and overcome adversity? I think I just summed up
that's pretty much it. But I do like that every sport's now what, we should do this. It's getting loads of new viewers.
Did you see Don't Want to Curl Up and Die, the curling one?
No.
No, it doesn't exist. But I think that
would be wonderful. That would... What was funny was the thought of you watching a curling thing, not the name. Because for some reason, just the name sounded like it fits the sport.
Yeah. I was to be fair, curling was the hot thing. We had some friends over somewhere recently, and they're like, "Hey, rumor has it that curling is really popular in London." And I was like, "Who told you this?" Someone's lying.
It's just called sweeping and mopping. We like cleaning.
But that being said, back in I can't even remember what Winter Olympics it was. Curling kind of became this weird. Phenomenon. That's what it was looking for.
I think it's pronounced
yeah. It became this weird phenomenon where, I remember being transfixed on the curling, possibly because I have no idea anything about it. The sweepy sweep guys. All right, here they come out again. Oh, sweeping fast, sweeping slow,
throwing out the flibble, and then makes no sense, but it's wonderful. If you are a professional curler out there watching this or listening to this podcast, do let us know how the heck it works.
Professional curlers. Just have a think about that for 2 seconds. I don't mean to say that negatively, but how cool is that we're in a world where, you know what, you love something enough, you can do it for a job-ish.
So if you're a professional curler and you used to listen to Holy Ramblings, let us know why Thomas said that.
That's so cool. Yeah. No, that's,
What about you, man? Any good films?
any good films? No, I feel like I've done nothing with my life. I've been incredibly busy lately. We rewatched The Truman Show somewhat lately. Somewhat recently. The Truman Show. And that was a brilliant film. Like, just great all around. I still love that. But I can't think, did I watch anything else? Kim and I are watching The X-Files.
Never seen it.
Yeah, neither had I. So it's fun watching stuff from 1993. Fashion has not changed, actually. But
yeah, well, absolutely.
It's all come back. It's very strange. We're like, wow, these guys are so trendy and modern. But it's funny being scared by something that's 30 years old. Like, there was an episode that just creeped us out. It's not graphic. It's just kind of like
freaky. It's the X-Files.
Yeah.
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 The theme tune. That's what
that's not it. It has exactly. That's where that part comes in.
Thank you. I was not
and I don't know, but like subtly, I've been kind of noticing that like I just don't want to trust anybody. Like looking around, being like, maybe they're in on some sort of conspiracy. But equally, I come from America.
I'm a real Londoner now, so well done.
Don't trust anybody.
I just don't trust anyone.
Yeah, well, that's fair. That's fair.
Oh, nice. Well,
but yeah, you gotta try. Yeah.
What? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. What?
I don't know. You got. All right.
The dangers of recording online is like the half-second delay when you just catch yourselves. Yeah, it's always fun.
I've not actually said any words this podcast apart from splut, splut, splut. I mean, that's pretty much my whole podcast.
So if this becomes our top-rated episode, ladies and gentlemen, no, that's not true. You publicly shamed me against all the curlers, so I know you said something.
All right, I'll say something. Oh, fine. I shaved before doing this podcast, and if you're watching on YouTube, you'll notice a very shiny face, and because we don't do it 2 weeks in a row, if you see it next week, it will be. It will basically. I would have shaved exactly the same time before
facial
as well.
infection.
Yeah, I look like a giant baby. I feel like if I walked outside, someone's like, "Do you want to fight? Do you want me to help you find your mum?" I got ID'd.
You said, "Do you want to fight?" I feel like a giant baby. So if I go outside, people are like, "Hey, do you want to fight?" I'm like, "Wow, it's rough where you live." You guys are. It's rough. Hey, look, come here, baby.
2 week old. What you looking at?
That's why parents need to be around. You never know what's going to happen.
It's basically, mum is nothing but a bodyguard around here. So,
that might be one of the more underrated.
What?
Oh, sorry, man.
No, I was just talking about how young I look. I got ID'd. I went to.
You got ID'd?
The store. I went to Tesco's and I went to pick up a couple of boxes of beer so my parents in law would stay, and then they also love having like some Haribo after dinner, like watching a film. So I picked up beer and Haribo.
I would card you.
And I was like, pay for it, and they're like, yeah, we have to get some. And someone came and was like, come on, and I was like, no, I don't have any idea. I'm 31, and they're like, they heard my voice and they're like, yeah, no, you are fine. I was like, but it was
only if you didn't do it. I swear, I'm 31.
It's me.
I'm 31. I'm Mr. Lees.
I'm the mayor of this town. I'm just picking up the Haribo for the kids.
It's like that scene in Home Alone.
Yeah, exactly.
For the kids.
Card number, no problem.
You should get a talk boy. I had a talk boy.
Yeah,
like back in the day, I had like one of those like tape. It was basically a glorified tape player Walkman, but it had a microphone on it. You could slow it down. It was basically the same thing. I really wonder. They just must have made a product for the movie, and they were like, "We will sell this." Like this.
I think they did though, didn't they? The product wasn't around before they shot it.
I presume not.
Yeah.
Also, because it wasn't like designed like a thing. If you don't know what a talk boy is, I highly recommend Googling it. But on that,
watching Home Alone. But yeah,
or watch Home Alone too. On that note, this week, as you've probably read on some sort of title of the podcast, you looking around for the title?
That was. I don't know why I was like, is it on my ceiling?
Can I see it? Can I see it from here? I figured it'd be interesting to talk a little bit about leadership. Leadership is just kind of a thing that happens. Some are born with it, some aren't. No, that's not how it works.
It's a ship we all get to sail.
Or sink. Leadership is the one ship is guaranteed to sink. No.
In all fairness, there's times it feels like that.
Well, and so my general, my rambling thesis, right here, I'll propose it. Is I was talking to a good friend of mine, and she was writing a sermon. I was on authority. We had a great conversation. Especially because I said the word "she." Doesn't sound like me. You were for the friends. We were talking, and it made me think about a couple things. And my story, where I am currently, is I was a youth pastor, was associate pastor, was acting lead pastor for a couple of years, and then hit this wonderful reset button called ordination training. And now
Boom.
I am an ordinand, which is church slang for intern.
And don't you forget it.
Yeah, seriously. But it's fascinating to go from someone who makes all the decisions, for the most part, within the leadership, and to someone who makes like none of them. And so it's got me thinking, especially while talking to this person who's writing their sermon, like the scope of authority, right? We talk about like spiritual authority or authority inside an organization, who has the most agency and all those things. And I was like, leadership is a weird thing. Like, it's just weird sometimes. The fact that we just go like, I don't know who's in charge here. That person seems the loudest. Let's follow them.
They're the ones.
So I figured, why don't we talk about what leadership looks like? What have we experienced in leadership, both in leadership and under leadership, and maybe talk about God's perspective on what leadership looks like.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a good plan.
Judgy, who is the best associate pastor you've worked for? Sorry, that was a little.
There's so
he's like,
many
I've not
other
worked
names above your name. Well, let me get started.
Worked? I didn't work. Four? It wasn't four.
Yeah, that definitely wasn't true. You guys lost me before that happened.
No, I knew what I was. It was a very intentionally, clearly leading and maybe inaccurate way to present that information. Yeah. Thankfully, we never really had a moment where we had to figure out how that would be very specifically done. We had a season in which I was in charge, but I didn't feel the need to be like you were kind of doing your thing. As long as I could release you into it, that was it.
There was only a couple months I can actually really remember where there was a couple. Yeah, there was really we had to figure out how we were kind of leading together, because at the time I was fairly established as the worship pastor, and you were establishing yourself as this like associate pastor. And actually no, because when I don't remember, when did you? No, I'm thinking of when you took over as kind of the pastor. Like you've had those sorry, I was thinking of the times when you took over as having like associate pastor in charge moments. But yeah, we kind of.
It's like, man, I was like, man, I'm pretty sure I was associate pastor forever.
What a toolbag.
Johnson's rewriting. No. I was like, I don't actually remember which time you're talking about. But yes, I was. There was a sabbatical. I was put in charge, but I didn't. I wasn't really in charge. You guys were doing.
We were kind of leading together in the same.
Yeah, it was just
place.
I was there to take the blame when you guys did something. That was primarily.
And that was awesome. I loved that.
That was primarily whose fault is this? I guess it's mine.
Why would he leave that and twerk?
Well,
my hips don't lie.
But actually, we jokingly walked into a place of conversation of leadership. So many times people think leadership is a way they can get done what they want to do, right? They're unhindered. They can do whatever they want. But I don't know about you, man. I've found a lot in leadership. Often it's I'm the one left kind of holding the bag when it all goes wrong. So whose fault is it? Well, it's going to be the leader's fault. Have you found this in your aspects of leadership? Oh,
totally. I don't think it's the free pass that people think if you're not in leadership or in a type of leadership. It's not that kind of like, oh, great, now I can just do anything. It comes with a massive weight of responsibility. And I think anyone that stumbles into it suddenly realizes very quickly how
they've been given great power, so they have great responsibility.
But but it's interesting because even with that, like, I mean, I always think of Spider-Man. He could clearly go, well, whatever, I don't really care. And like, yeah, he could just swing around and enjoy it. Like, but I think when you're suddenly leading other people, you can't, like, if you do that for too long, you get called out. Like, no one's going to call Spider-Man out unless he destroyed people.
If Spider-Man's your pastor, we got bigger problems.
I think we got bigger problems.
But actually, that you touched on another great point of leadership, and it's kind of the purpose of leadership, right? It's not like we both mentioned. It's not about just getting what you want done. Oftentimes, it comes with responsibility, and unfortunately, sometimes that responsibility is things broken land up in your hands. But the other thing you just mentioned, that I actually really find interesting, is you talked about the idea of leading people, and I don't know why. In this modern age, the association between being a leader and the idea of leading people seems to have been separated. Like, first off,
my dyslexic brain's like, what way are we talking about here?
Here's what I'm saying, right?
Paint me a picture.
In a kind of strange way, right? Imagine I'm an Instagrammer, and I have like 15 followers, and I'm telling people I'm an influencer.
This is really hard to imagine.
Yeah, no, this is pretty much verbatim my life.
Just a bit close to the bone, mate.
But like, you'd be like, you're not an influencer. You're not influencing anybody. But oddly enough, we have a lot of people who are like, I'm a leader. And they're like, all right, who are you leading? And you look around and there are people who just want to be in charge, but really don't want to lead people. And I find that a fascinating disassociation, that it's no longer about how you can lead people into being the best version of them, but it's become about how I can, not me personally, but how a person can be in charge and not actually lead people. Like, I've met a lot of leaders that just want to drag people. Come with me.
Yeah, I mean, it feels so true. I remember when I joined Christchurch, I had a word just before I joined, and the Lord said to me,
don't trust the associate pastor.
I was like, God, I know that one.
Don't worry. I'll have a podcast with him, but I won't trust him.
I won't trust him much. I remember him saying, your job is not to lead the best, it's to lead the best. Like, I could be confusing when I say it. So as a leader...
I thought you were going to, like, lead the worst. Your job's not to lead the best, it's to lead the worst. I was like, wow, that's going to be a dark way to turn this.
No, as a leader, as a worship leader, I think you kind of get that pressure of being like, well, if I'm the pastor, I need to be the best at leading worship in the church. And I thought the Lord basically like, that's not about that. It's about you need to be the best. You need to be leading the best in worship. Like, leading the people who are the best. Your job is to be under pushing them forward to being the best, not about you. And I love that. Like, wow, it's such a sacrificial place as a leader to not. It's not about you. It's about the holistic view of everything.
And I mean, I wish I could have the kind of memory to remember a whole bunch of things, but in our life, that we've chatted about these things a lot. It's that kind of idea of like, wouldn't it be great to make the story of the people I'm leading greater than my story? Like, if I can do anything to make sure the people who I'm leading are remembered better than people remember me, then I'm doing an alright job. Like, it's not about making my story known. It's about helping these people write their story.
And that's That's leadership, yo.
And so I'm always struck by, here's the case in point, I don't know his name, but there's a story of the kind of local farmer that brought Billy Graham to a tent meeting. So he picked him up in his pickup truck, and Billy Graham was this kind of boy known around town. He was a little bit of a rebel, but this farmer guy picks him up and is like, "Hey, we're going. Come on in." And he jumps in the back of the pickup truck, and they drive out, and that's where Billy Graham gets saved. And this Billy Graham has, he's Billy Graham, has this huge worldwide ministry, but I can't remember the guy's name.
Case in point.
But without him choosing to see someone and go, "Hey, I'm going to invest in you," that story wouldn't be there. So those types of leadership models are always in my head. And I mean, I highly recommend Simon Sinek. He's great person to read about leadership. And I like kind of the way he goes about that. I'm sure there are other amazing leaders. Here's one of the things I did note. I think we have an overabundance of leadership books. I don't think anyone needs to write any more leadership books.
But if you don't write it, then you can't make money. So what you going to do?
It's gotten to the point where I feel like leadership books are "Hey, I tried this thing once and it worked for me."
Here's a book about it.
Yeah. Well, here's at least a chapter about it. The rest of the book's not.
I think there's just altogether too many books out there on everything.
Spoken like a true dyslexic. Me and John are like, "Yeah, books.
Oh, come for your books."
Actually, you're brilliant with audiobooks. So I'm awful with all kinds of books.
I'm actually not. I listen to a lot of the same ones just on repeat because I can't be bothered to pay for an Audible subscription.
Well, there you go.
So there you go.
As far as coming back to leadership, because I could get lost in audiobooks, one of the things that I've kind of noticed about my scenario is I would imagine, and hopefully you'll attest to this, I don't know. I would have imagined, at least for the most part, I tried to be an ego-free leader. It wasn't really all about me and my, I tried to live in a way that wasn't, it wasn't all about me being the leader at all times. I attempted.
Maybe.
Thank you for that. Again, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
But when I stepped down from senior leadership into a kind of subservient position, into this ordinand position, I was surprised at how quickly my pride inside me wanted to scream, "What are you doing? Why isn't anyone listening to you?" And I was so shocked by that, because I never thought about that when I was leading. I was never "How dare you question my authority?" I didn't care. I was I have the authority. I don't need to fight you for this. It's either going to happen or it's not. I don't know. So now, when I'm in a position, and I'm not it's not awful where I'm at, I'm just not in charge. I was very surprised at how quickly, my flesh basically, hated, having to, give up all that. Because my mind was pretty easy on that. But actually there was a place where I was but I want to be in charge of everything. And I was just kind of shocked. I didn't know that was in me. And for the first time in a long time, because I've been in leadership for a long while, it was the first time I really had to come to terms with what it feels like to kind of be a leader who's not leading. And that's really got me thinking about, it's got me really thinking about everyone. Because truth be told, if you're listening to this right now, you are a leader in some way, shape, or form.
Because this is now a leadership podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it worked for us.
I'm selling a book. That's it worked for me this one time. No, but the truth is, all of us carry that authority that Jesus has given us by the Holy Spirit. So if you're a Christian, you carry authority in the places you're in, whether it's your family, your house, your job, whether you're the CEO or the janitor, whether you're the vicar or the ordinand, you carry authority in some way, shape, or form. And the question is not, do you get to impose it, but the question is, how are you going to release it? Because there's always someone who needs the authority you're carrying to be released to them so they can do something And so,
that's a good point.
For me,
I was going to question your point there, and then I was like,
I'd get there eventually. It's called holy ramblings, man. Give me space.
All right, fair.
But it's like, I mean, in my context currently, without going into too much details, because that seems unfair, but like trying to build people up in an environment where I don't know very many people, but trying to find people who I'm like, hey, I can release this to you. You can actually invest in the church. You can be responsible. You can have authority. You can have a space to grow here. Because I'm like, I mean, I have such a limited collateral at the moment, but actually what I do have, I'm happy to give out. I'm happy to give away. Not because, like, it's not things. It's not like I'm giving out the Tom Sawyer making his friends whitewash the fence. It's authority. It's input. It's ideas. It's agency. If you're a leader and you can only delegate tasks, then that's not really leadership. That's just management. If you're a leader who can give out authority and input and agency, that's leadership. And that's really hard when you feel like you might not have very much. And I took that for granted. I think in this season, I've suddenly realized, like, I don't have that much authority, in the kind of, I have a lot of spiritual authority, but in the sense of like where I'm at, what I can, like, you know, this, I'm going to say this, it's probably going to happen. I don't have that kind of authority, but what I do have, it's interesting to go, who can I give this to? So like we're redoing a room or doing something in the church, and I'm like, all right, I don't need to be the one who makes all these decisions. Like, I don't need to be the one who's put my mark on this church. So who can I entrust in this? Who can I hand this to? Who can I help release into this?
I think it's interesting though, isn't it? Because it's, I think what you said a minute ago is really key. That I think we so quickly confuse leadership with management. And I mean, in this day and age, most leaders that are renowned leaders are business owners. You know, it's managers. It's the Richard Branson. It's the, well, for a time, Steve Jobs. You know, it's that kind of like, and we so confuse the two that actually the understanding of what leadership is something far more accessible for everyone. Yeah,
and so that's an interesting point. I don't mean to badmouth him. I actually have quite a lot of admiration for Steve Jobs, but is Steve Jobs, would he be classified as a leader by the way we're defining it? Well, actually, maybe not. Probably not. Like if you found the people who were around him, a lot of them report saying he was very controlling, very, very micromanaging, very passionate, very like clever. But as far as like that ability to release people into their own space, that is not the Steve Jobs we hear about. But he managed Apple so well. Like they make great products.
Greatest manager,
but
sure.
But they like you raise a great question. Now I'm pondering, like, is why do we assume that that's what leadership looks like?
Because
it's sexy.
Jesus had a small business, right? 12.
If Jesus was running a small business, that thing tanked. It like lasted 3 years, and there was no building.
He was working with a publishing company.
It didn't really take off till after he died.
He raised these, within his group. He definitely, released, 5 or 6, 7 great authors.
Yeah, not to be confused. Yeah. I guess that's true. Yeah, it was a publishing house. Yeah.
Yeah. Whoa, that was a tick from. So because I'm aware, we'll be wrapping up in a minute, but like, what would you say to somebody listening to our cracking voices? Why?
You're so popular, Johnson. It's not me.
Oh yeah,
it's not me. I'm not that. There's only 3 people who text you. It's not me,
Mom. What would be the thing to kind of take away from this? Like, because we can talk so out there about leadership and management and films. What would be your takeaway from this?
I think that I think that, so Jesus in Luke says this, right? And I have it over here, Luke 12:48. He says, to everyone who much is given, much will be required. And to him who is entrusted much, they will demand even more. And this kind of idea that actually, God's placed something in each of our lives, whether it's a little or a lot. He's given us authority. He's given us his authority. That's such a powerful thing. Now, whether you are leading a church or you are just someone who has a nice life, an apartment, a cat, I don't know. Like, it doesn't really matter who you are. But, like, I'm trying to go, like, look, you don't need to be the CEO. You don't need to be in charge. You don't need to be a boss. You don't need to be someone with authority that the Lord's given that authority to. The question is, what are you going to do with it? The question is, how can you best manage that authority? I often think about the parable of the talents, right? So, you know, someone gets 10, someone gets 5, someone gets 1. And the person who takes the 10 goes invested, the person who takes 5 goes invested, and the person who gets 1 is like, hey, look, I'm scared of what to do with this, so I'm going to hide it. And when the owner comes back and is like, hey, what'd you do with the money I gave you? They're like, hey, I hid it, so it's safe. And the thing that always caught me off guard as a kid is the response from the kind of master is, you wicked servant. Like, it's not like, well done, you made sure it was safe. It's, you were a wicked servant. You were afraid to actually do something with this. And I want to encourage anyone who's listening. I want to re-encourage myself and maybe even you, John T. Who knows if you listen to me. But, like, God's entrusted you with something precious, whether it's a 10-talent portion of authority or a 1-talent portion of authority. It starts somewhere. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to invest it in the people around you? Are you going to see them become the kingdom and understand their potential in Christ more and more? Or are you going to hold on to it because it's scary to share it? So that's... Be a leader, but not with a leadership book. Don't go out and buy like 15 different leadership books talking about how to be the next big CEO. Be a leadership by be a leader in leadership by starting with love. Love someone who's near you. Pour into them, invest in them, see them strengthened, see them equipped, see them realize a dream.
That's awesome. And just following on from Thomas's point, look in the description. There'll be 15 links to books on how to be the best
I've
CEO.
written all of them. Jonty, I've talked a lot. My throat's feeling so hoarse. Will you pray for us?
I will. Lord, thank you. Thank you that we can all love. Thank you that we can all honor and lead and grow and encourage, Father. Jesus, we pray, Father, that you give us really amazing insight and revelation on how we can do that more, how we can do that in our everyday, and that we would just see your kingdom advanced and your people blessed through our actions and our words. God, we bless every listener. We bless each other and any funny faces Thomas is making at me right now. In Jesus' name. Oh, man,
I behaved.
I shut my eyes just in case.
This was wise. But, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you've taken what we said to heart. And, we bless the authority you carry. Use it wisely.
Use it wisely.
Do it. Absolute power.
So, right, so this is my turn now to muck this up. You can follow us on Spotify and TikTok and Instagram. And
I don't think we're on TikTok.
I can't remember what we did.
We're not on TikTok. Don't follow us on... If you're following Holy Ramblings on TikTok, I can guarantee you it's not us.
It's not us.
But we are on Instagram. Not like...
We are.
We could do more. We should do more on Instagram.
I can't remember the spiel. What's the spiel?
But yeah, you can listen to us on all good podcasting channels. There it is. Apple, Spotify, Google... SoundCloud, and on YouTube, Geek Theologian. And I would love to hear from you, so you feel free to always reach out to us on any of those platforms that we can get feedback from. Feel free to like. It helps us get the word out more about the podcast. Share it with all your friends, and have an amazing couple of weeks. We release fortnightly, so we'll talk to you again in about 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, looking all fresh, and I would have just shaved it then as well.
Yeah.
See you later.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.